champagne and orange juice. Someone else suggested it, not me. Yeah. It was good to be away, and it's good to be back. My children, my daughter and her husband and their 3 children have moved from Germany to Texas. Yeah, it's been a little bit of a culture shock. And they're living in a 5th wheel, the 5 of them. Yes, yeah, until Michael retires from the Army, which will be in about 18 months. So it was good to see them. My amazing partner found an Airbnb on a working ranch 5 minutes down the road from where my daughter and her family live. So Dan's Facebook post for the cows. I mean, longhorns. Yeah. Whew. Something else. Longhorns, not cows. Sorry. Texas probably wouldn't fit with me very well. I don't know. Want to make sure that you all have the Tizay music before we begin this morning. If you forgot, raise your hand. Dennis or Barb or somebody can bring you a copy so that you can sing along at the appropriate times. Want to mention on the welcome cards the congregational survey on the back for the pastor search committee. Please fill that out as you are able in the various ways, and that will be great information for the pastor search committee. If you turn in a welcome card, please put your name on it so that we know who to contact if we have questions about the information on there. Things going on this week. Tomorrow night, the Poetry on a Monday event, Women's Voices, Women's Visions in honor of Women's History Month. Many thanks to Kieran Hansen and Judy Johnson for putting that all together. It will be a lovely event. Please come out and welcome these voice artists to our sanctuary. Wednesday, especially for those thinking about being new members, but for everyone who wants to know more about the history and mission of the United Church of Christ, a soup supper starting at 5:30 in the Best Fulton Room, and 6 p.m. on Friday, Zen Tangle. You saw the beautiful designs up here on the screen. A great, what do I want to say, relaxing, right? Relaxing kind of event where you just concentrate on making your hand do beautiful things. So please attend. Materials are free. It's free, right? 6 p.m. Friday night. For those of you who know and celebrated, St. Patrick's Day was last Friday. I did just a little bit of research. St. Patrick was born in Britain, but kidnapped at age 16 and brought to Ireland. He escaped, but then went back to Ireland, where it's said that he brought Christianity, became the patron saint of the Catholics in Ireland. Apparently, according to some stuff I read, St. Patty's Day became famous with the parades in America. Go figure. The Irish in America did not necessarily want to be assimilated into the melting pot. Go figure. They want to remember their customs, their ancestry, their ways. Good on them. And so as we think this morning about seeing with different eyes and being open to the mystery all around us, Let's prepare our hearts for worship.
Thank you, Ramona. Please join with me in the call to worship. We are people of faith.
We are called to listen for the Spirit inviting us to healing.
The pioneers of our faith dared to trust the ways of truth and life.
They took risks to follow the call, to live into new ways of being.
We have received the promise of steadfast love.
God blesses us, and our hearts are open to wellness and joy.
I wonder if the kiddos want to come forward. Oh, no. Are you okay? Good. Come on up. Good morning. everyone.
I just made a swing.
You did? That's really cool. Red and green wheels. Almost like Christmas or maybe St. Patty's Day. Yeah. That's funny, isn't it? Happy St. Patrick's Day. Yeah. I wonder if any of you know someone who can't see. Anyone know someone who's blind?
Me.
Well, I'll tell you what. Everyone, close your eyes right now. Close your eyes. Just keep them closed for a minute. No peeking. I know it's really hard, isn't it? That's what it feels like to be blind. That would be a little scary, wouldn't it? Except that, how about close your eyes again? And tell me what you hear.
I hear a bunny.
You hear a bunny? Well,
I hear a bird.
I hear children talking. Close your eyes again. Tell me what you feel with your fingers.
I feel like scratchy.
You feel scratchy on your skin. Do you feel your face? Do you feel your clothes? So you can know about things. Oh, let's try one more. Close your eyes. Now, smell through your nose.
I smell like chocolate cake.
You smell chocolate cake. Well, you got quite an imagination. Bunnies and chocolate cake. You have Easter on the mind, I think. Yeah. Do you smell anything? What can you smell? Kind of clean in here. Does someone have perfume on? Can you smell someone's perfume? Can you smell what you had for breakfast? You have lots of other senses. You may open your eyes now. You have lots of other senses, don't you? That you can find out things. If you couldn't see, you could find out things through your other senses. In fact, people who can't see are really good at hearing and smelling and touching things. So their other senses develop really well. And it's good to have people like that in our world. Right? Because they can notice things that those of us who see maybe don't notice. Isn't it?
I don't notice that.
You don't notice that? Well, you know what you can do?
What?
When you're at home today or any day, you can close your eyes and practice listening and practice smelling and see if you can develop those senses as well. You could even practice tasting with your eyes closed. See how food tastes when you can't see what you're eating. It's very interesting. All right, I think, are you kiddos going to go down to the nursery and hang out? Yeah? All right.
Grandma said we like to play downstairs.
You do. All right. Well, blessings on your playtime. Do you want to take the kiddos downstairs? All right. Thank you so much.
Yay! Come on. We gotta play downstairs.
This morning's ancient word is from John 9:141 from the Contemporary English Version. Jesus saw a man who had been blind since birth. Jesus' disciples asked, "Teacher, why was this man born blind? Was it because he or his parents sinned?" "No," Jesus answered, "but because of the blindness, you will see God work a miracle for him. As long as it is day, we must do what the one who sent me wants me to do. When night comes, no one can work. While I am in this world, I am the light for the world." After Jesus said this, he spit on the ground. He made some mud and smeared it on the man's eyes. Then he said, "Go, wash off the mud in Siloam pool." The man went and washed in Siloam, which means one who is sent. When he had washed off the mud, he could see. The man's neighbors and the people who had seen him begging wondered if he really could be the same man. Some of them said he was the same beggar, while others said he only looked like him. But he told them, "I am that man." "Then how can you see?" they asked. He answered, "Someone named Jesus made some mud and smeared it on my eyes. He told me to go and wash it off in Siloam pool. When I did, I could see." "Where is he now?" they asked. "I don't know," he answered. The day when Jesus made the mud and healed the man was a Sabbath, so the people took the man to the Pharisees. They asked him how he was able to see, and he answered, "Jesus made some mud and smeared it on my eyes. Then after I washed it off, I could see." Some of the Pharisees said, "This man Jesus doesn't come from God. If he did, he would not break the law of the Sabbath." Others asked, "How could someone who is a sinner work such a miracle?" Since the Pharisees could not agree among themselves, they asked the man, "What do you say about this one who healed your eyes?" "He is a prophet," the man told them. But the Jewish leaders would not believe that the man had once been blind. They sent for his parents and asked them, "Is this the son that you said was born blind? How can he now see?" Excuse me. The man's parents answered, "We are certain that he is our son, and we know that he was born blind, but we don't know how he got his sight or who gave it to him. Ask him. He is old enough to speak for himself." The man's parents said this because they were afraid of their leaders. The leaders had already agreed that no one was to have anything to do with anyone who said Jesus was the Messiah. The leaders called the man back and said, "Swear by God to tell the truth. We know that Jesus is a sinner." The man replied, "I don't know if he is a sinner or not. All I know is that I used to be blind, but now I can see." "What did he do to you?" they asked. "How did he heal your eyes?" The man answered, "I have already told you once, and you refused to listen. Why do you want me to tell you again? Do you also want to become his disciples?" The leaders insulted the man and said, "You are his follower. We are followers of Moses. We are sure God spoke to Moses, but we don't even know where Jesus comes from." "How strange," the man replied. "He healed my eyes, and yet you don't know where he comes from. We know that God listens only to people who love and obey him. God doesn't listen to sinners, and this is the first time in history anyone has ever given sight to someone born blind. Jesus could not do anything unless he came from God." The leaders told the man, "You have been a sinner since the day you were born. Do you think you can teach us anything?" Then they said, "You can never come back in any of our synagogues." When Jesus heard what had happened, he went and found the man. Then Jesus asked, "Do you have faith in the Son of Man?" He replied, "Sir, if you will tell me who he is, I will put my faith in him." "You have already seen him," Jesus answered, "and right now he is talking with you." The man said, "Lord, I put my faith in you." Then he worshiped Jesus. Jesus told him, "I came to judge the people of this world. I am here to give sight to the blind and to make blind everyone who can see." When the Pharisees heard Jesus say this, they asked, "Are we blind?" Jesus answered, "If you were blind, you would not be guilty. But now that you claim to see, you will keep on being guilty." Today's contemporary word is The Opening of Eyes by David White from Songs for Coming Home. That day I saw beneath dark clouds the passing light over the water, and I heard the voice of the world speak out. I knew then, as I had before, life is no passing memory of what has been, nor the remaining pages in a great book waiting to be read. It is the opening of eyes long closed. It is the vision of far-off things, seen for the silence they hold. It is the heart after years of secret conversing, speaking out loud in the clear air. It is Moses in the desert, fallen to his knees before the lit bush. It is the man throwing away his shoes as if to enter heaven, and finding himself astonished, opened at last fallen in love with solid ground.
What is it? How many of you see two faces? How many of you see a vase? Well, many of you can see both. Yeah. But it takes some doing, right? You got to adjust your eyes a little bit, right? The suggestion is that whatever you put in the foreground is what you will see. So try that. See the vase more easily when it's in the foreground? See the faces more easily when they're in the foreground? There are many. I mean, if you just Google optical illusions, right? There are many of those wonderful little puzzles to kind of check out. This one was made famous by the Danish psychologist Edgar Rubin. The point is that seeing requires a certain energy, and often when it doesn't, we're seeing the same old thing, the way things have always been. Not necessarily a good thing for God's people. Another example about perception. So, did any of you remember the movie a few years back, At First Sight? Starred Val Kilmer and Maria Sorvino. Yeah, it was a cute little love story. It was based on a true story of the life of Cheryl and Barbara Jennings. They lived in a small town in New York, and Cheryl was blind. Cheryl is Virgil in the movie, and Virgil is very happy in this small town. He knows how many steps it takes to get from his home to the grocery, and his home to the dentist, and his home to his best friend's house, and life is good. One day, Virgil is out ice skating by himself on the local pond, and a woman, Amy, on vacation from the big city, sees him. He's very carefreely dancing on the ice, as if not a care in the world. And she's intrigued. A day later, she books an appointment with a massage therapist, only to discover that Virgil, the ice skating man, is the massage therapist, and he's blind. But she knows immediately when he puts his hands on her skin and her muscles that he sees plenty. He's able to see all her pain, all her tension, all her anxiety, and by the end of the massage, she is in tears. It's a love story. The two of them become more intimate, and one day as they're walking, a rainstorm hits, and they take shelter, and Virgil is able to describe to Amy in incredible detail where they are, just based on the sound of the rain from the outside. Amy is from New York City, where there's a doctor she believes can reverse Virgil's eyesight so that he can see. When he can see, he becomes very disoriented. The senses that at one time gave him security are now misfiring. His sight doesn't help him with balance or distance. He must start from scratch, it seems, to find his way around. And then, gradually, his eyesight is regressing. Amy wants him to try the surgery again. Virgil wants to go back to the way he's been living, seeing with all of his senses. If you haven't seen it, I'm not going to give away the ending. That would be terrible. I don't know what the blind man in this story experienced when he could finally see. I'm guessing if he did have any disorientation, he covered it up. For to be blind in the ancient world was to be an outcast. Some sin must have caused his blindness, and so he was ostracized from the community. This man born blind can see with all his senses. He knows when he walks through town that people avoid him, that some laugh at him and disparage him. Even Jesus' disciples believe that he is somehow morally deficient. And as is typical of John, he gives us layers of revelation in this story, questions for us to ask as we listen to the questions that those around ask when they encounter the man born blind. First of all, he seems to be unrecognizable once he has his sight. How often isn't it that we see someone with a disability and right away that's who they are? Someone with a wheelchair, someone with a cane, someone with a walker. All of a sudden they don't have the capacity to think or believe or have emotion. They simply are someone who walks feebly. The difference is often what we see first. But like the optical illusion, what we put in the foreground is what we will see first. What about a person's sin? How much do you know about your neighbors sitting in the seats and their sins? Most of us put on a good mask, even when we come into the church, because we want to be accepted. We want to be welcomed. And yet, we all have secrets. We all have those things that we want to make sure no one knows, because what will they think of? What will they think of us if they knew the truth? There was a movement not too long ago called Ban the Box. Do you remember that movement? It was a movement to get rid of the little box on application forms where if you were a felon, you had to check it when you submitted your application. Presumably, felons serve their time. They pay for their crime. Why does their felony status need to be known in order to apply for a job? That immediately suggests something about them. What if we had to divulge our secrets before we were invited into the community? The next hurdle this man must jump is the leaders, the religious leaders. They're curious about how this miracle could have happened if it occurred on the Sabbath, because healings don't take place on the Sabbath according to the law. So the person who committed this miracle, he was a lawbreaker. It was very disorienting to the religious leaders. They had to make sense of it. They had to put it in their little box. So they asked the man, and he says, I don't know. I just know I was blind and now I see. When have we made the laws, the social mores, the way we've always done it, more important than the loving interaction that Jesus provides, that provides healing for this man? When is it that the way it's always been done takes precedent over being loving? Some of the leaders go for his parents. If we can get the ancestors on our side, we'll be good. And they actually say, go talk to him, because we're afraid that you're going to condemn us. No, they didn't say that, but you know that's what they were thinking. Go talk to him. We want to be off the hook. You're going to kick us out of the synagogue if we tell you what we think. No one wants to be left out. Whenever love shows up, there's fear for the comfort of those in power. And when have we compromised on love for the sake of our own security and comfort? Everyone seems to be struggling. The man is caught in the middle, and he says, all I know, what you see is what you get. Do you hear him tongue-in-cheek? Maybe you just want to know so that you can follow Jesus. They've already decided that to follow Jesus is to be wrong because he upsets the status quo. The leaders are appalled. They've never been challenged by someone like this. They are the ones who know good from evil. They are the ones who know right from wrong. We are the ones who have every right to uphold a standard, and this man challenges their notion of godliness. Leaders are the ones who are supposed to model living love. They accuse him of being a sinner, of being incapable of teaching him anything. How can he possibly know? The laws they've followed, the rules they've obeyed, the good things they've done, the ways they've given to the church for their whole lives. How dare anyone challenge their ways? They kicked the man out of the synagogue, not just the synagogue, but any synagogue. Word travels fast. Jesus hears about what's happened. He goes to the man. Now, realize the man doesn't know Jesus, right? He couldn't see when Jesus put the mud on his eyes. He couldn't see until he went to the pool of Siloam, which means the one who is sent. Are you having a deja vu from the woman at the well? You should be. Jesus invites the man to believe in this life-giving encounter that they had. Jesus suggests that being able to see is not just about having vision. It's also about recognizing where love is, where God is. To see like God requires putting God's agenda in the foreground and letting our agenda fade to the background. It requires letting go of the ways of the world and the ways of the institutional church, where we've gotten stuck believing that we know what is right and good and holy. As soon as we think we know, we are blind to what is possible. And if we remain open to possibilities, we can live into goodness and justice and holiness. There are many ways to see with one's hands as a massage therapist, as an empath who walks into a room filled with people facing a situation, as a scientist evaluating the sky, or a farmer, or a sailor, as a family member at the side of a loved one's bed, or as a doctor, or as a pastor. John Newton sees the evils of slavery and becomes an advocate, an activist to free slaves. Blind people can learn Braille and see reality delivered through a printed page. John is rife with stories that challenge us on the Lenten journey to wait and to wonder, even to remain in darkness, in the mystery, in the unknowing, so that something new can come to light, can be seen, can be experienced. Jesus speaks to the church today when he goes back to the leaders who kicked the healed man out. They ask if they are blind, and Jesus says, if you are blind, you are not guilty. But now that you claim to see and behave so unlovingly, you will keep on being guilty. The invitation for those of us with power and position is to remain open and expectant so that we may see love wherever it is. It is Moses at the burning bush, seeing again. It is Jesus in Gethsemane waiting to see what God will do. It is the woman at the well engaging Jesus in spite of her position. It is the man rejected once again, saying, I believe in the power of love. Amen. Find all my prayer requests here as we go to a time of prayer. You can find some of those that we are concerned with on the bottom of the insert in your program. Prayers from last week include Ruby Caranco, not here today. I wonder if anyone knows an update on Ruby. Neil Kleiss, is it Kleiss? Kleiss, is there an update?
He's still in the hospital, but hopefully will be home for surgery.
Great. Great. So keep Neil Kleiss in your prayers as well. We have 3 prayer shawls here, one for Nick Drosha, one for An Win, the new Rendell baby, and one for Rylan Engelhart, who is still in the hospital, Joy? Yeah, in Grand Rapids. So prayers for and blessing for these 3 as they take our love and feel God's presence with them. And then finally, prayers for Roberta Wilson, Adam Drosha's grandma. She's recovering from a heart attack and a TIA. Our prayers for you and your family. Are there any other prayer concerns that we should keep in mind at this time? For the sake of seeing from a different perspective, often I have put in the place where it says Lord's Prayer, a different version of that prayer. Some would say it's not the right version. I get that. What we get used to is the right version, and yet if we did the right version, it would be in Aramaic. It'd be difficult for us to say it that way. And the Lord's Prayer, what Jesus taught his disciples, was an attempt to contrast with the prayers to the gods of the ancient world. And so it wasn't just about paying attention to the gods, it was paying attention to how we are sent into the world. And so you see that the Lord's Prayer moves from honoring God into honoring our connection with the world. This is a particularly poignant one, a poem written by Rebecca Solnit called The Mother's Prayer. I hope that it challenges you to see again who God is and how we are sent into the world. It's written as a poem, and so the slashes are where the lines of poetry changed, but for space, I put the slashes in instead of the whole poem, the way it was written. Let's pray together this poem called The Mother's Prayer. Our Mother, who art underfoot, hallowed be your many names. Your seasons come, your will be done, within us as around us. Thank you for our daily bread, our water, our air, our lives, and so much beauty. Lead us not into selfish craving and the destructions that are the hungers of the glutted, but deliver us from wanton consumption of thy vast but finite bounty. For yours is the only sphere of life we know, and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen. There are many, 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 many ways that you all give to make sure that the world knows God's love. So one of them is Women's Fellowship bought a new AED. I don't know what AED stands for. AED. We're going with AED. It's a defibrillator, so if someone has a heart attack here, they can make sure that you don't die of it, or at least try, right? Yes. So the old one was, something was broken, it couldn't be fixed, so Women's Fellowship gave a new AED, We're looking at the possibility of moving it into this space, and there will be a training class coming up after Easter, after a Sunday service at some point. Watch for details. Also, you give away food all the time, over and over and over. Spring Feast is happening the Sunday after Easter. There's a place to sign up here. You can remember this until the end of the service, right? Since I'm telling you now. Sign up here for the Spring Feast. And Diane will bring it downstairs if you forget up here. And then finally, you can look under Giving to God's Work in your program and see what the giving tree options. You can see information about the spring box supplies that are needed and when they'll be assembled. And today, the information in your program, the little brochure, is one of the 5 for 5 offerings of the United Church of Christ. And this one is, you can see I've forgotten what it is, of course, because I didn't just look at it. It's time to share, 1 great hour of sharing. Thank you. It's the typical Lent offering where we collect for needy folks throughout the United Church of Christ ministries. You can read about it here. Next week there will be envelopes in the programs for you to put your contribution in. You can bring it to the office, whatever way you'd like to make a contribution. And we have a little video with some more information about 1 great hour of sharing.